Look, I can't help but think that now might be a good time for a little fire and ice. These
Do not know. It's never a good time for fire and ice.
What happens when you mix fire and ice?
Warm water, baby.
It's bubbling, baby. Warm water. Warm water.
Brandon, that means it's officially time for a little fire and ice coming at you over here live at Union Draft.
That's
I
where
had
we
to think about
are.
it. I was
That's
like,
where we are.
where am I? There's been so many different places over the last couple of days.
You know?
I am. I'm getting old, man. So
You are. You're an elder statesman now.
An elder statesman. My God. That's the last time I placate to you and wanting to like be nice. Okay, so we are over here at Union Draft House, and as we got started, we got a little alert that the battery is dying on that camera.
So we'll take care of that, David.
Yes, we
there
will.
Go. Thank you, buddy. Make sure it's plugged in.
Yes.
That's why I'm seeing black, maybe, no?
Oh, yeah. But
besides your shirt, of course.
Oh, this is a nice shirt. Want to give a shout out as soon as we get a little bit of power going.
Yeah, I guess they just can't see us, but they can hear us, right?
They can hear us, yes.
Well,
they are able to hear us.
We'll get it taken care of.
Yeah, we will.
It's a nice camera you got there. Let's see, make sure everything's plugged in correctly here. Okay. And then does this need to be turned on or anything, right? Okay. And then do you want me to go double check the camera and make sure everything's kosher?
I'm double checking right now.
Yeah, Dave's on. Dave's on, you know
Dave's a good man with a knife and a fork.
Oh, yeah.
And I imagine we have the power source there, so we'll get that taken care of. I like that camera, though.
I was waiting to see the little yellow light that turns on the side. There it is.
The adapter failed? Okay.
I don't know.
Well, I see the little yellow light is now on. It looks like the charging light is on, so we'll give it a couple seconds while it gets its thing going for it. This is always a fun time. This is the beauty of trying to do all this stuff. Live radio, as some would say.
Well, that's
no longer live radio.
It's our live show now, live podcast. I mean, so it's wonderful, and it's the beauty of it all, as you know. Now, let me ask you: if they can't see you, what's I mean, they don't have to see you. You do have a face for radio, so I mean, but oh, there you go. I see you.
Jerk. All right, so I'm going to change the source real quick to just me while we get that taken care of. Let's see if we can't just power down the camera and then power it back on here in a sec.
He got another adapter. Maybe that'll work.
Adapter. Yeah, that
aren't you clever?
Let's see. We turn the camera we turn the computer just a little bit. Get a little bit of Brandon the Iceman cone. It's a little dark here. People don't realize. I didn't realize how bright that camera made us look. This
nice. It just shows you the quality.
This FaceTime camera on this like MacBook. And this ain't an old MacBook either. It's pretty new.
Looks like my computer. I like that one.
Oh, I didn't know you had a computer.
Yes, I have a computer, dude. What the hell, man? I mean, I had a computer. You're funny.
Well, that's because you're old. You're ancient.
Yeah, I know you're an idiot, but you don't have a computer or anything, do you? It's like.
Well, that's the reason why. Like, I can only imagine your computer has crashed a few times due to some nefarious websites.
I actually just got a new one. I just got one like a few weeks ago.
Was that the reason why? Because of the amount of nefarious websites?
I don't know. I mean, I think you're very funny for pointing the nefarious. Isn't that a movie that just came out?
I have no clue. I don't do movies, as you know. There we go. We are back.
How'd you do that, David?
Always carry spares.
Okay.
Always carry spares.
That's why you had a spare in your.
And he's as sharp as a matzo ball. This guy,
yeah.
I like that.
That's also my father's motto. Always carry spares. That's why he had multiple families.
And you tell me my jokes suck. Jesus. Yeah.
Oh, I don't say jokes for you guys. I say them for me. What are you talking about? 95% of my humor is for me. I don't care about y'all. What are you talking about? Anyways, it is time for Fire and Ice.
Very funny, man.
We got the camera fixed. I've got people laughing. Brandon's uncomfortable. He's red and uncomfortable right now. I love it.
I am not red.
Yeah, he's pretty red.
I'm just a red human being.
Oh, okay.
Like a tomato.
Right. That's right. Just a little bit of taking care of some details. Taking care of a little bit of details. Next week, there will not be a show. No Fire and Ice. The week after that, there will not be any Fire and Ice. Brandon going out of town on a little cruise. Where are you headed to?
Well, we leave to Fort Lauderdale next Thursday, and then the next day we'll be doing an airboat tour of the beautiful Everglades, the Florida Everglades National Park. And then on, Saturday, well, actually, we're driving down to Key Largo as well, and then Miami, South Beach, and then Saturday getting on the boat in Fort Lauderdale, Port Everglades, and then we are on our way to the Bahamas, to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and Grand Turk. It's a 7-day cruise, and I'm
Look
very
at that.
excited about it.
If I may ask, like, well, because I've never been on a cruise, so like, what does something like that run you? Like, what?
Well, it depends on the time of the year, but the summer's obviously one of the peak times. But my sister, she actually is a manager for Princess Cruises.
Huh?
And yes, exactly. And she got us a mini suite for about 4 G's, but that also includes the drink packages, the Wi-Fi, but normally, like if you're paying normal prices, that's probably a $6,000 or $7,000 voyage.
Is it worth having the Wi-Fi? Because I feel like if you got the Wi-Fi in the room, there's no need for you to have the Wi-Fi. Like you want to go do all the stuff on the cruise.
Yeah, I had it for the first time. I had the Wi-Fi last October when I went on a cruise with my buddy out of LA, and it's okay. It kind of sucks, the Wi-Fi, because you're in the middle of Yippetsville, like nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I mean, I wouldn't add it on unless it was given to me as part of the package. But yeah, I guess it's nice to have it if you need a couple things here and there, whatever, when you're on the middle of the Atlantic, sailing the beautiful Atlantic. But the drink package is nice. Of course, if you drink like a fish like you do, I mean, you're like ordering drinks. And they give you like X amount per day and free water and free, club soda, which me, I love these friggin' mineral waters. These are phenomenal. So I'll order 10 of these a day, and it pays for itself. And all the soda you want, all the free specialty coffees, and so yeah, it's actually really nice, especially if you are into adult beverages. And them drinks aren't cheap on those cruises.
No, 100%.
They're very expensive.
And yes, I apparently do drink like a fish. You make me seem like I'm some sort of alcoholic.
No, not you. I mean, you're only on beer number 50 of 100. So
I forgot the little card again.
What the hell's the matter with you,
dude?
So what are you getting?
I didn't think about
are
it.
you getting like past due stamps, or how's
I guess I'm gonna have to figure a way out on that. Like I do have video evidence.
They love a moron like you because then they get to stamp it twice and pay. You get to pay twice for all these.
Oh,
beers.
they stamp it twice, and that means
the last one you didn't care for though.
Yeah, no, there was
fruity or whatever.
No. It was a phenomenal beer. Just in case I want to be a sponsor.
You're all spitting it out.
I was not. It was delicious.
Hey, can I give a shout out to our boy Sal, right? Montes?
Yeah, yes.
His dad, who I love dearly. Have you ever met his dad, OG Cornuts, Richard?
Of course.
Well, this week I had a wasp nest the size of your head that we discovered underneath the grill. And I was in Austin last week for my Aunt Judy's 80th birthday. Happy birthday, Aunt Judy, belated birthday. We had a wonderful time. First time in Austin, believe it or not.
Really?
Yes. I can you believe I've been all over the world, but never to Austin until now. But anyway, she got stung, by a few wasps, and there was a nest like this big. Well, OG Cornuts, who owns Eagle Pest Control, sent his son out the other day, and he got rid of that wasp nest. So if you need somebody to come take care of your business, Eagle Pest Control, the best in town, honestly. Phenomenal.
Getting rid of all them wasps and insects and all that nastiness that people got around their houses.
Yes. Richard, OG Cornuts is the owner of that company, has been for years, and he's a good man, and we appreciate him.
100%. So there we go. We're doing all the housekeeping here. And remember, we're over here at Union Draft House, 730 Sunland Park Drive. I didn't get into it because the camera failed me the first time. So we're over here, parking lot of Sunland Park Mall. Remember, it's Build Your Own Pizza Day, $2 Build Your Own Pizzas. It's cider day, $4 on the ciders all day long as well. So you got amazing things that they're doing over here at Union Draft House. Last week they had the wing eating competition. That was a fun thing to witness. I also get tired of seeing people eat. I can't watch other people eat. I don't like people watching me eat. That's why I don't eat on the stream.
Sure.
It's like a weird thing of mine. But
I have seen you eat before, though. You've eaten a little pizza on the stream once.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like I'm just engorging.
Right. Yeah.
Like I thought about it because you competed in the hot dog thing, and everyone was disappointed because you only had 4 hot dogs. You won, but you only had 4 hot dogs. For me, I don't think I'd be able to do that, right? Because I like to savor my food.
Sure.
So if they had like a one wing, the hottest wing we have type challenge, I would do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would just, open my mouth as wide and just shove every possible wing in there as a fat guy.
It's rough, man. It's rough, and I wouldn't, especially if they were kind of spicy. I don't know how spicy they were, but I like to also savor my food and enjoy every bite.
Do you watch the Nathan's hot dog eating contest?
Well, normally yes, and Joey Jaws Chestnut won again. But I was on the road back from Austin this year. My friend and I were driving back on 4th of July, so I missed it. But how was it? Did you enjoy it?
No, I mean I don't like watching people eat, so I'm not gonna watch. Like I've seen
it's
it a couple
kind of disgusting.
times. Yeah, like it's gross, especially when like dipping the hot dog in the water. Yeah. I cannot get past that, or the bun rather, in the water. I cannot get past that. Like, it's a mental block. I can't imagine how nasty that tastes.
It's gross, dude. The water and the hot dog bun do not go well together. It's absolutely repulsive tasting because soggy bread sucks, man. I like crispy bread.
What's your go-to on the 4th of July? Like, are you a hot dog guy? Or are you like just nothing but steaks, ribs, burgers? Like what do you do?
Traditional steaks. I mean, like hot dogs, hamburgers, like just easy.
Okay.
Maybe some wings. Something like that.
A little bit of wings.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
see,
and
with
you?
me, I'm all about like bratwurst and hot dogs.
Okay.
And then, of course, like just being a big fat guy, I didn't post up any pictures this year, but I normally put like a bunch of stuff on the grill. I had steaks, short ribs, all kinds of stuff like that. So it's a good time.
My invitation must have gotten lost in the mail. Go! I just missed the cut.
You were in Austin.
Yeah, you didn't know that.
Yes, you told me last week.
Oh, I guess you did.
You said it on the show.
I'm sorry.
This guy.
I forgot.
Oh yeah, no.
You're still
Plus,
my
you were
buddy.
driving back from Austin.
I was on the 4th.
So
You're
there you
still my
go.
buddy. I'm just busting your balls.
Oh,
And I was coming back through your area around that because you get to come on I-10 and it's like way in BFE, Far East Side where you live.
Every time we do the show, Brandon's hoping and praying that we're over on this side.
That's like
of town.
Union West, right, buddy? Destiny's
Waste your gas, buddy.
No, buddy. I'll go with you. How many times have I schlepped to the east side for you? Come on now.
3 times.
But one thing, the manager here at the West Side is so appreciative. We get a really open arms welcome, if you will, every time we come here and entertain in the mezzanine.
You see, this is our new home then.
Yeah. Look at the way Dave was like trying to
Right?
maintain the
He
relationship.
lives 5 minutes away too. We're like between the two of us, we live 10 minutes away. And it's like, well, let's stick with West.
Well, Victor does do a great job taking
he's
care
a
of us.
nice
Victor's
guy.
a really good dude. The whole staff out here at Union Draft House, Sunland Park, that location is absolutely phenomenal. They're going to have the fight tonight. A little bit later on, we're going to be talking to our guy, Troy Farkas. He is an MMA guru, UFC guru. He helps out with the Ariel Helwani podcast as well. Those that don't know, that's the biggest podcast in the UFC world. Came from ESPN as one of like their main MMA guys as well. So he really knows his stuff. He's going to educate me a little bit. Brandon and him are going to have a conversation because I've literally got no clue about anything MMA related. Ever since Ronda Rousey left and Conor McGregor kind of just washed out, I've been kind of checked out of the MMA. So it's going to be up to you guys to try to convince me to check back in on this because I don't know if I want to.
I mean, look, it's all cool. I mean, there's a big event. This is always their annual, one of their biggest cards of the year, like post 4th of July, around the 4th of July. And the co-main is great. The main should be intriguing. And, of course, even the prelims headlining by, Robbie Lauer, who's been around forever. The guy's fought over 30 times in the UFC, which is a lot. But I think it's going to be an interesting card tonight. It's like I said, they usually try and have an all-star card in July this time of the year.
So is that kind of like how boxing always tries to have a big event around like Cinco de Mayo and September 16th and everything like that? So this is like MMA's thing then.
Well, yeah. I mean, usually you're going to have one of the biggest cards of the year in July. But albeit, though, in November, I think we're looking at Stipe Miocic and Bones Jones potentially fighting for the championship, which is something that's been in the works for years. So that, to me, would then be the biggest card of the year, undoubtedly, in Madison Square Garden.
You know something that I've been watching, Brandon? Because I asked you earlier if, like, you've been watching anything sports-related, anything like that. You basically said, no, not really, right? Because there's not really anything on. I haven't been watching a lot of baseball. But you know what I was watching all day yesterday, Brandon?
What's that, buddy?
The NBA Summer League.
Okay, that's your thing. Not my cup of tea necessarily, but I guess when you're starving for sports, you'll watch anything. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I mean, I would watch it all the time. Anyways, I see the Yankees are currently playing right now. I don't see them.
The
on any of these
Cubbies, though,
teams.
I heard that the Cubbies are paying their first ever visit to Yankee Stadium right now. They won yesterday.
Gross.
Ha!
Horrible team.
Yes, they are.
Either way, I'm watching.
You got the
Summer
WNBA
League.
over
We
here.
got the WNBA. We got horse racing going on over here. There's a little bit of soccer. Don't know what that is. It looks like Canada and Cuba. I'm assuming is this.
Canada and Cuba.
This is the Gold Cup.
Gold Cup.
There's so many like little tournaments in soccer. It's hard to keep up with. But anyway, I'm watching the NBA Summer League, and it's only for one reason whatsoever: Victor Wembanyama. Seeing what he can do with the San Antonio Spurs. And the best part about it is they have him and the San Antonio Spurs, their very first game against the Charlotte Hornets, and the number 2 overall pick in Brandon. I want to say Brandon Jacobs, but not Brandon Jacobs. I want to say Brandon Allen. There we go. Brandon Miller. There we go. You got the number 1 versus the number 2 overall pick here. Neither one of them had a phenomenal performance. But I'm watching as Wembanyama gets the ball and, like, he's big and awkward and he's, looks like basically a daddy long legs out there playing basketball, doing all that stuff. He fell on the floor at least 12 times in the 24 minutes that he played in the game.
My goodness.
Fell on the floor, like was on the actual floor. You can't get pushed around like that. Like, even though the NBA is not what it was back in the day, there's no excuse for a dude that's 7'5" to be getting pushed around like that.
No, not at all. And that, again, that goes back to what we talked about last week, that he has to obviously gain more muscle, more stability ultimately, because that's a big man. And you got to think about how strong his fellow players are going to be in the NBA. And I mean, attribute it to, hey, he's just joining the league and getting even to, a summer league game. It's still NBA talent, NBA players. So he's really got to get ready for the season. But this is what better way to get him for the season than be participating in this particular league.
For me, I think the thing that was, like, if I'm a San Antonio Spurs fan, the one thing that I'm super excited about with Wembanyama is the fact that it seems like no matter where he was on defense, whenever someone got around him, they couldn't get by him. Like, he's just so, tall and lanky. And there was one move where, like, he jumps up, the opposing player kind of puts an elbow in him to push him off, shoots the ball, and Wembanyama still blocks the ball with, like, his elbow.
Amazing.
Which is because you can't teach big.
No,
right?
So
you got to do the 7'5". Defensively, I think his game is just going to be perfect, right? Like, there's not going to be any issues with his game defensively. It's going to be on the offensive end because, like I said, he fell on the floor 24 times.
Jeez.
All of that was on offense.
That's amazing.
And a lot of it was, the old school. We've all played basketball with old guys, right? You start posting them up. What do? They pull the chair out from under you, right?
Right.
That's what they were doing. Like, you're that big. You're the number 1 overall pick in the NBA, and you don't know how to back a dude down without falling on your ass when they pull the chair out.
I mean, yeah, that's
concerning, man.
It's very concerning. So, I mean, again, this is a guy that just needs to be grounded and ultimately use his size to his ability, and he's got to gain a lot of muscle. That's the thing, is that gain muscle and not be able to be that floppable, because then it's going to be a problem.
And even Victor admitted that he needed the conditioning. He was very honest about it.
And this was the thing that I think goes overlooked as well, right? His last game in France was on June 19th, which ain't that far back.
No,
right?
it isn't. No.
He plays his last game in France, comes over to the United States, gets drafted, has to do all of the little things that he's doing, flying around all the country. Yesterday, he's in Vegas. The day before that, he was in San Antonio closing on his house.
Probably a little geschluffed, right?
Has to be exhausted.
Yeah, no
So
doubt.
if I'm the Spurs, I wouldn't have played him the 24 or however minutes they played him. Like, you got to give the dude some rest.
Yeah, definitely.
And their next game is going to be tomorrow on Sunday. I want to see how much the Spurs actually put this guy out there to try to, like, do all this stuff. I think the thing that was also frustrating is that they only had 2 plays for him because he hadn't practiced with the team.
Sure. I mean, look, again, it's something that, he's got. We mentioned that he's got so much going on. He needs to rest a little bit, but at the same time, you want to also get him ready for the season, which, if you think about it, it's still a good distance until the season, but October, November will be here before you know it. So, I mean, it's kind of like they want to make sure their prized possession is ready for the fight.
The one thing I love and hate about the NBA, Brandon? Ring chasing. Chris Paul gets traded to the Golden State Warriors to be their backup point guard. Obviously, that's going to give them one of the better options of winning an NBA championship. They weren't going to need him in Phoenix. They were just going to get rid of his goofy ass.
Sure.
So now he's in Golden State. He's there with the Warriors. What do you think that's going to be like for him? Because I kind of like that mix of having him and Steph Curry, to where Curry doesn't have to be the ball dominant guy. And the NBA isn't a big league anymore. It's all about, getting smaller and outside shooting. I think that actually benefits the Warriors greatly.
Yeah, it's going to add more depth to them. I mean, certainly this is still a very, very good team. And this is a team that, if you look at it, obviously made it to the second round of the playoffs, lost in, was it 7 games to the Lakers?
Yeah.
Or, okay. So, I mean, you're 1 game away from making it to the conference finals still. And, I mean, I still think that they have the pieces. They have the coaching. I mean, I still think Chris Paul is a great player. I mean, when he's actually healthy, he's a pretty damn good player. So I feel that he adds, more than anything else, a lot of depth, much needed depth, because we know that Curry has had the injuries lately. So I feel that's a great move for him towards the end of his career, and ultimately the Golden State Warriors, if they want to try and win another title.
For me, I don't think this makes them a favorite to win a title. Like, I like Chris Paul, but Chris Paul clearly has a curse on him where he's going to be one of those guys, an all-time great that never won a ring. Right? He's going to be Charles Barkley of this generation, get all the accolades possible, not ever going to win a ring. And to me, I get the move if I'm Golden State. Like, obviously, like you said, the depth, it gives you all that. But you just re-signed Draymond. You've still got a huge core of players there where Chris Paul doesn't have to be the number 1. He doesn't have to be the number 2. He doesn't have to be the number 3. Hell, he can hardly be the number 4. And it still makes them a great team. And I don't even think he's the number 4 because they've got like a whole bunch of other guys over there. Like James Wiseman is real good. Like they've got really good talent. Andrew Wiggins, like they've got a lot of guys in that Golden State team to where it's just like you just add another guy there that gives you veteran leadership that can maybe teach some of the younger players how to be vets, because it seems like that's their biggest issue is they got guys like Draymond that go just off the rails, right? And that creates all this controversy with the team. You've never heard of any infighting with any Chris Paul type team. I think that's the reason why you have him there, because he is the elder statesman of that team now.
No, he isn't. He's even keeled. He like I said, he's extremely
all the State Farm commercials.
Yeah, I mean he's great. He has like a twin or something or whatever they're trying to say. But no, I mean I've always liked Chris Paul. Like I said, he's one of those guys where it's like hard to hate him. Obviously, he's always been a good straight shooter in the NBA. Never really caused any problems. And I think the one thing is obviously the big knock on him is his inability to stay healthy, especially when they need it the most by his team. But look, overall, I mean, to me, if you can always add more depth and the price is right and they could hopefully potentially be a good fit, I don't see why you don't acquire him. I really don't. I mean, I still think that this is a team that, again, it's 1 year removed from winning a title. And they still have all of the glue. They just kind of, maybe they needed one more piece. Who knows? I mean, the Nuggets could be good for a long time, but it's hard to be great consistently in the NBA. There's so much parity. And really, to me, it's like there's a lot of, I don't know, say one-hit wonders, but teams that are great for 1 year and then they kind of disappear for a while. So I feel that I'm happy. If I'm a Golden State fan, I'm happy about the move.
In other NBA news, Damian Lillard, the last time we were here, he hadn't officially demanded the trade. Over the week, he said, look, I need out of Portland. It's time for me to leave, which I think is a good move on his behalf. Also a good move on Portland's behalf. He's saying that Miami is the destination. If you're the Portland Trailblazers, do you try to trade him to Miami, or do you just try to get the best possible return you can get? Because it doesn't matter. He's leaving anyway.
Well, I think you obviously are always going to try and trade him because you're going to want to get something for the player, and he's still a great player, and that adds a lot of depth to Miami. I mean, Miami, again, is another team that 2 out of the last, 3 or 4 seasons, they've been in the finals, been in the conference finals. They could be a player away from winning a title. So I think that's a great fit for Lillard. I think a solid addition, and I feel that if you're a team like Portland, and you're going to lose him for sure, at this point you have nothing to lose, so you've got to get something for the kid.
So what team do you think would fit him best? Because I don't think, if I'm Portland, I'm not just giving him away to Miami, and Miami doesn't have a lot of capital to give back to you.
Sure.
Right? So, like, what team, because what are their draft picks going to be? Because like you said, they've been a constant team that's in the conference finals, always in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're going to have late round draft picks. The NBA draft, obviously not as, hit or miss as the NFL draft is, but you still want to get those number 1, number 5 type guys.
You got to find a team that has obviously a lot of shekels available, but most importantly, I think if you're them, you want to try and get them out of the West. So that's what they're kind of looking at potentially. Maybe Philly. I'm looking at teams that are contenders that are already really good. Obviously Boston is that team that's been there every year but hasn't quite been able to get over the hump. Maybe a team like the Chicago Bulls. I mean, I don't know. They could use a player like his caliber. I mean, the Bulls almost made the playoffs. They got into the play-in round and they lost to Miami. And so there's a few options to me in the East, but I'm trying to get him out of the West if I'm Portland.
Chris Babcock read my mind here. The team that I was thinking of was the New York Knicks. You got a team that's got a lot of salary cap space. Maybe you trade Jalen Brunson. You try to find some players there that you can try to move over to Portland. If I'm Portland, I don't think I want players and contracts. I just want draft capital.
Yeah, but if you're
the Knicks have a lot of it. San Antonio's
they have a lot. They have a lot to offer. I mean, sure, San Antonio, but again, he's staying in the West. Problem with the Knicks is they haven't done jack squat. So if you're Lillard, do you really want to go to the Knicks? But I mean, sometimes you don't have a say. But when's the last time the Knicks have been, extremely relevant other than, hey, we made the playoffs, but advancing as far as the conference finals or whatever. So if you're Lillard,
he could be the piece. That's a young team.
I mean, again, possibly, but I wouldn't hold my breath if I was a Knicks fan.
We're getting a lot of comments about the indoor football league.
Whoopee woo! What do we have to say? Who's
The Arizona Rattlers have won 7 straight games.
Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's 7 straight games.
Well, at least we found out where the Rattlers are from.
Arizona.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So
where else would they be from?
I don't know. New Mexico, Albuquerque.
Yeah, Texas,
Death Valley.
Yeah, Death Valley. Utah.
Yeah.
There's
snakes
in
all
Utah,
over the place.
right?
Yeah.
Southwest, basically. No?
Yeah, so there you go. We found out we've narrowed it down now. The Arizona Rattlers are the hottest team in indoor football.
Wow.
It's like being the tallest little person, but they're there, and that's all that matters, Brandon. They're doing what they've got to do. Okay,
they're taking care of business.
Chris Babcock is saying that Danny White is the former head coach. I guess we're leading El Paso in Arizona Rattlers talk here.
Nice. Well, that works. I mean, it is Danny White.
Danny White,
who's
former
a great
Dallas
quarterback.
Cowboy. I don't know about great. He never won a Super Bowl.
He's good enough.
Lost a whole bunch of NFC championships.
Yeah.
This guy overrated.
Yeah. Well,
worst quarterback in Dallas Cowboys.
I liked him. Well, I don't know about that. Some people may beg to differ. Dak and his little hands.
His tiny little hands.
He may be the new one.
In a few minutes.
So many interceptions.
In a few minutes, Troy Farkas is going to be joining us. He is our MMA guru. He's going to be joining us to talk about UFC 290. That's coming up later on today. They're going to have that over here at Union Draft House. It'll be on all the TVs that they've got as well. So if you want to come on out here, 730 Sunland Park Drive on the west side of El Paso in Sunland Park Mall's parking lot. They've got all kinds of great deals going on today. They have the $2 build your own pizzas. We've already got pizzas over here on the table. They've got the $4 ciders, all the ciders all day long here, $4 at Union Draft House. Chris Babcock saying that Danny White was the 1980s Tony Romo.
Yeah, no, a lot of people compare him to Tony Romo. I mean, the way Tony Romo never got them to the NFC title game, to a Super Bowl. But, yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that parallel many times.
Such hatred towards Tony Romo.
I mean, I loved Romo. I was a big Romo fan. He's probably, other than Aikman, one of my favorite Cowboys quarterbacks of all time. I am quickly, and I hate to say this, but I am quickly not becoming a Dak Prescott fan as much as I just think he throws too many interceptions. That's a big problem.
Well, I mean, that was the knock on Romo as well. Like, untimely interceptions. But I think the thing with Romo, like we as Dallas Cowboys fans always seem to forget, the fact that Romo, the majority of the time that he played, didn't have a great offensive line. He didn't have a great defense. He didn't have a running game. It seems like Dak Prescott has all of that.
Yeah, and still
just can't get.
He hasn't been the same since that injury in 2020 rather.
Well, I mean, look at that injury.
Yeah,
that's a hell of an injury.
It decimated his ground game, and that was part of what made him such a great quarterback, was his ability to be mobile and run. And now he just can't do that. I mean, clearly he's not the quarterback he was a few years ago. And I don't know, maybe it's because he has to stay in the friggin' pocket that teams have just learned his style, where he's throwing way too many picks.
UFC 290. Did I say MMA 290?
Probably, because you're a putz.
I don't watch any of that.
It's UFC 290.
UFC 290. Yeah, that was Babcock dumping on me over here.
That's our buddy Babcock.
It feels like MMA 289 was just yesterday. Is what he said.
Does. It sure does. Actually, it's funny because we have 290 and 291 in the same month, which is really rare.
Wow.
Yeah, I think 291's the end of this month. So usually it's once every month.
So I'm assuming they just go like numerically all the way up, right?
Yeah,
so eventually we're going to have like UFC 1000.
Yeah.
Nice.
Eventually, like 1,000 years from now.
I will say, because it's like
no,
once a month.
I mean, that's it's about once a month they have a big UFC. They have UFC 290 to 291 at the end of this month. So
Chris Babcock also saying that now, thankfully, no more Zeke Elliott. I don't
not
like
necessarily
that,
though.
And that's the thing. Like, I think they might have an outside opportunity here of signing him.
I mean,
and they get to keep him as like their number 2 guy.
Yeah.
And of course, like, you got Tony Pollard, or you're not going to pay a bunch of money to him, right? I think the Dallas Cowboys are in a very advantageous position, but it's also one of those enviable positions where you don't necessarily want to sell right now, because like you're a good team, but I don't think they're good enough to win anything of consequence.
No, absolutely not. The Dallas Cowboys are who we thought they were. They're a team that can make the playoffs, can win their division. Maybe Philadelphia is pretty damn good and ultimately give you the first or second round, and then they're going to bow out as usual.
Note to Jerry Jones: let your coach coach.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though, and I don't disagree with you, but I don't like a lot of the decisions that McCarthy makes either. He makes odd duck decisions. He's a gambler, but he doesn't gamble well half of the time. And if you're going to gamble and have some balls, at least make good decisions, man. It's another thing about that guy.
We'll talk more about the Dallas Cowboys because this is Dallas Cowboys country. That'll be coming up inevitably over the next couple of weeks and months because we cannot escape the factory of depression that is known as the Dallas Cowboys. But right now, we are joined by my guy, my friend, Troy Farkas, MMA guru, UFC guru. He's joining us here on Fire and Ice to talk to us about UFC 290, not MMA 290, but UFC.
Holy crap, was that loud?
That was a little loud. I'll fix that. Okay, but with UFC 290 going on, Troy, I'm not a big UFC guy. I don't think I've watched any of their main matches, anything like that. You've got to convince me, my guy. Why should I tune into today's event?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Second of all, July 8th, today marks International Fight Week. This is the UFC's. The UFC doesn't have a Super Bowl. The season never ends. There is no culmination. But International Fight Week is the closest thing that the UFC has to the Super Bowl, meaning all of the stars come out. We get big, meaningful fights. We get it's a whole week, International Fight Week long of events, of meet and greets, of signings, of live events. It's in Las Vegas, where the UFC is headquartered, and it's just this week-long lead up, and the Hall of Fame ceremony happens this week as well, where we induct some legends of the sport into the UFC Hall of Fame. It all culminates Saturday night. This is not the biggest card of the year. There will be cards this year, maybe 2 or 3 that are ultimately better, have better fights and more meaningful fights on it. But let me tell you, top to bottom, this is an incredible card. We have 2 title fights. First of all, this happens maybe a couple times a year where we have multiple title fights on the card. We have 2 title fights. The headliner is Alexander Volkanovski, who finally is getting his due as one of the biggest stars of the sport. He's been one of the sport's best champions for a number of years. He's the featherweight champion, the same division that Conor McGregor, the sport's biggest star, used to be a champion in, and he's had the belt for a number of years now. He's beat Max Holloway, one of the other best fighters in the sport, 3 times. He had the most ridiculous he's like the toughest fighter that we've ever seen, at least that I've ever seen in the UFC. I haven't been a fan for 20 years, only about 4 or 5. But Volkanovski is the toughest guy. He's an Aussie. He's the man. He used to play rugby. He fights at 145 pounds. He used to weigh 200 pounds. The guy is a freak athlete, tough and durable. And he's going against Yair Rodriguez, who is this flashy. I'm trying to think of like what a good normal sport comparison is. Maybe like an Allen Iverson type, like an uncharacteristic, doesn't really make sense, flashy, one of one, must-see TV, fun to watch. Yair Rodriguez is not Alex Volkanovski's, in his words, toughest opponent yet, but it is his most dangerous opponent. So we are going to see some fireworks tonight coming from Yair Rodriguez. That's just the main event, which is good enough. Co-main event, we've got Brandon Moreno versus Alejandro Pantoja at the flyweight division. Moreno is the champion, one of the sport's most beloved stars, and he's going up against Pantoja, who actually has beaten him twice. So this is a trilogy fight. Pantoja is not the champion, is going up against Moreno, who is the champion. Moreno actually exited the UFC a number of years after losing to Pantoja. He got beat so bad that the UFC kicked him out, and then he then worked his way back, and he is now fighting his former foe, the guy that he's never been able to get across. Those are the title fights. The third fight that you have to watch for is Robert Whittaker, Dricus du Plessis. Waiting in the wings, that will be cage side is Israel Adesanya, the middleweight champion, one of the sport's biggest stars, my favorite athlete. He will most likely fight the winner of this fight. So we have massive stakes all up and down the card. Oh, and by the way, Bo Nickel is the greatest American prospect that we have seen in years. The UFC, an international organization, many of its champions, most of its champions are international. Bo Nickel, one of the all-time NCAA greats out of Penn State, the best wrestling program in the United States. And Bo Nickel has had a couple UFC fights under his belt. It is clear he is one of the sport's best prospect, going to be one of its biggest stars. He's a minus 2,400 favorite today, or plus 24. I don't know how odds work, but 2,400 favorite, which is like the biggest, which potentially by the time that we get to this fight could be the biggest favorite in UFC history. So we've got prospects, we've got stars, we've got rivalries, we've got stories. It's going to be a great night. I can't wait.
Let's talk for a minute about the prelims. Of course, Robbie Lawler is headlining them. And, look, this is a kid that's been around forever. I feel that Lowry is one of the big stars in the UFC. I mean, certainly he's the sentimental favorite. Talk about him. Is this his last fight, and do you see him pulling this one off?
It is his last fight. He has said that it's his last fight, it's his retirement fight. Unfortunately, recently, we have had a number of beloved guys like Robbie Lawler, most recently like a Fedor Emelianenko or a Frankie Edgar, these pioneers of the sport, beloved by everyone, memorable moments inside and outside of the cage. And unfortunately, after so many years of taking so much damage in the cage, you know, if you're still fighting at 40, you're not very good. For the most part, you're not very good. And unfortunately, a lot of these guys are going out in pretty dramatic or in pretty sad fashion. They're getting knocked out, or they're leaving all bruised up and not the way that you want to go. You want to go out on top. Nate Diaz, one of the sport's best cult heroes, left the sport or left the UFC. He might come back, but he left the UFC last year on top with a W. That's the way you want to go out. Robbie Lawler tonight is hoping to, another cult-like hero, hoping that he can have that kind of walk-off today. He will certainly be inducted into the Hall of Fame and International Fight Week in years to come. Does he get it done tonight? That's a great question. He's going against Nico Price, who, by the way, is a perfect fighter. I'm glad that this fight is on the prelims and not the pay-per-view, because this is a fight with a legend, and this is a fight with Nico Price, who's just a fun fighter that, like, if you're not a UFC fan at all and you're flipping and you see Nico Price, you stop to watch. He's fun, he's charismatic, he's wild, he's crazy. He versus Robbie Lawler is a perfect, fun fight. Does Robbie Lawler get it done? I don't think so, unfortunately.
Interesting co-main and main events. I'll start off with the co-main just to break it down a little more. Moreno, of course, against Pedrosa. Now, this is for the 125 belt. Moreno being the champ after defeating former champ Figueroa after their fourth fight. Really, this is a situation where we know he's a good boxer and wrestler. Do you see this one potentially going the distance? And do you see Moreno taking care of business? And, how does this one go your way?
I don't see this, or I do see this one going the distance. How it gets done is a great question, and that's probably the biggest question that we all have about this fight, because Brandon Moreno is very good on his feet. He did have a submission victory in one of his title wins over previous champion Davison Figueiredo. Pantoja is also very versatile, and Pantoja has said that he's ready. Actually, they both said that they're ready for all forms of MMA. This is not just a boxing fight. This is MMA. Each guy is very quick to say. And that's going to be the most entertaining part of this fight. I love watching the flyweights. You guys still got me? Hello? Yeah, you froze on me too.
Been working like a dream over the last couple of weeks.
There we go. We're okay.
Are you back?
Hi. Yes. I see you now.
Thank God.
Okay. I'll blame you for that. I have impeccable connection over here. Moreno and Pantoja, going to be a fun fight. Moreno is, and this is also, we're having this Mexican wave in the UFC. Yair Rodriguez is headlining tonight as well. Mexican interim featherweight champion. Alexa Grasso on the women's side of things is the UFC flyweight champion. And then here we have Moreno and Pantoja. Moreno, the Mexican champion. So we've got something serious going on here in North America. And so I'm very excited. Moreno, very likable guy. He's into Legos. This is why I like UFC and the athletes so much. They get to show their personalities and loves Legos. Yeah, the UFC does this incredible program, which I wish other sports did, called UFC Embedded, where basically the UFC cameras follow the fighters all fight week and just shows them going about their normal lives, getting haircuts, going grocery shopping, meal prepping, hanging with the boys. Moreno, whenever he fights, they always get him going to a Lego store or some type of cartoon shop. There was this week, he and his daughter Madison went to buy Pokemon cards and then sift through them, which was lots of fun. So Moreno, very likable, relatable, fun guy. All these dudes are just normal dudes. They just beat each other up for a living.
Talking about the main event, Volkanovski and Rodriguez, Rodriguez, overall, a strong fighter. He's a good grappler. He's a well-rounded striker. Of course, the kid from Chihuahua, also a Taekwondo specialist here, and he does have those unorthodox strikes and kicks. But Volkanovski, fighting for the 155 belt recently against also the Russian champ there, which he lost. Many folks did think he won that fight. I was one of those. This is a kid that, you noted he was over 200 pounds. I think he was 220 pounds at one point. He is obviously, to me, the stronger of the two fighters. I think he's the more well-rounded of the two fighters. Do you see him just tearing this kid a new one, or is this a fight that also could go the distance and maybe be a unanimous decision for Volkanovski?
I don't see Volkanovski tearing him a new one. In any of Volkanovski's title defenses or title wins and defenses, like, he's never really just completely, he's dominated people, but hasn't left them totally, like, he's not like a very violent and vicious fighter. He doesn't present a lot of danger into you, like you're afraid you're going to leave there on a stretcher. He's not that kind of fighter. It's more so his will. You cannot outwill him. That, what you referenced, going up to 155 to face Islam Makhachev, arguably the sport's number 1 or number 2 pound for pound fighter, and Volkanovski's right there in that conversation. What he did to a much bigger guy, to a guy that no one in his division in 155 wants to fight, was absolutely incredible. You can make the argument that Volkanovski won that fight. You can also make the argument that Makhachev cheated. There's a whole controversy about that as well. You cannot outcompete Alexander Volkanovski. Yair Rodriguez has never faced a guy like Volkanovski. Volkanovski has never faced a guy like Yair Rodriguez. So he has to be ready. You have to be locked in at all times going against a crafty guy like Yair, who will just pull something out of his back pocket at any second. He famously knocked out the Korean Zombie with 1 second left in a round. It's completely out of nowhere. So Volkanovski has to be ready for that. Knowing him and how he prepares for his camps, he'll be very locked in, ready for this fight. When you're a long-standing champion like Volkanovski is, sometimes the crown that you're wearing can get too heavy. You let your guard down. You're not motivated. That does not happen to Alexander Volkanovski. We've never seen that. A year ago, International Fight Week, he faced Max Holloway for the 3rd time and had his best performance against him yet. You would think after beating the same guy twice in a championship fight that the 3rd time you'd be like, oh, God, why am I doing this again? Had his best performance. So Volkanovski, ready for it. I think he wins a decision. I honestly think, it's not a sexy fight for Volkanovski. I think he's going to be more on the defensive, but I think he will outclass Yair Rodriguez.
That has to be one of the coolest nicknames that you just skipped by, the Korean Zombie.
Oh, I love the Korean Zombie.
Best walkout song,
awesome.
too. Zombies by the Cranberries.
Yeah, Zombie. This guy's amazing. I love the Korean Zombie.
If he was fighting tonight, I wouldn't even have to have you on here to convince me. I would be watching.
I love that. He's one of my favorite UFC fighters. He's amazing.
Okay. Yeah. So yes. I know you got more questions, Brandon. What do you got?
Well, no, I just want to talk about the Whitaker fight. I know that he's a beast. He's a great striker. I'm thinking he's probably going to win by a TKO. How do you see that fight going?
That's very possible. I hope that's what happens, to be honest, because his opponent, Dricus du Plessis, is a guy that I'm not a huge fan of. And so I would like Whitaker to kind of smack the smirk off of du Plessis' face. Robert Whitaker is an incredible fighter. It's unfortunate. We have a couple of guys right now in the UFC who are so good and would be champions in their division at any other time, but just the current champion is just so good. Like, we have a bunch of different Drew Breeses in the UFC right now, whether that's Max Holloway, whether that's Colby Covington, whether that's Robert Whitaker. Like, all-time greats just can't be the champions because their respective champions are so good. So Robert Whitaker, great striker, hasn't lost to anyone not named Israel Adesanya, the champion, since 2014. That's almost 10 years by my calculations. He's going to beat Dricus du Plessis. Du Plessis has been in the UFC a couple years. He is a foreign champion coming into the UFC, so he is very experienced. There's not too big an age gap between them, but Whitaker's been there, done that. He wants to get another crack at the belt. Dana White, UFC president, has said that this is number 1 contender fight, meaning the winner of this probably gets a title shot after this. So Whitaker would try to get Izzy a 3rd time. He is on record saying that, yes, I very much want that fight to get Israel Adesanya again. So I think Whitaker gets it done. I think he gets it done violently and fast.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned this isn't even – normally it's the biggest card of the year, but I agree with you. There's some good fights on this, but I'm really, really looking forward to a potential Stipe showdown in November at MSG against Bones Jones. Is that fight going to happen in November for sure, you think?
That is going to happen, actually. Dana White
All right.
announced it yesterday via live stream. So that will happen in November. As for as long as UFC fights have been held in the state of New York, the November Madison Square Garden card is always a massive fight, a historic fight usually. And this one, I mean, you're talking about Stipe Miocic, who is the greatest UFC heavyweight champion of all time, versus John Jones, who is the greatest champion of all time. John Jones just made his move up to heavyweight, his long-awaited move up to heavyweight earlier this year, and just dismantled Cyril Gane in the first round. And he's now going to try to get another heavyweight championship against Stipe. We've been talking about this fight for a while, wanting to make it happen for a while. It's been hard to get both of these guys to the table, but we finally made it happen. And by we, I mean Dana White and the brass, and we're finally going to get it November 11th, MSG. Going to be there. Can't wait.
I can't wait, man. I've been waiting for this one for years. Yeah. You know as well as I do, it's going to be phenomenal. Oh, my God, I can't wait for this fight. I mean, dude, I'm just going to tell you right now, Josh, look, I've been following UFC for forever. What did I? Troy, my bad. I'm sorry.
Same thing.
Troy, I knew it was Troy, for our buddy Troy Aikman. I'm going to just tell you right now, I ultimately feel that even though Bones Jones, only fought once in like the last few years, I still got to give him the edge just because to me he's the greatest UFC fighter of all time.
Yeah, I agree with you there. John Jones looked incredible in his heavyweight debut earlier this year. Stipe, he's over 40. He might be 41 at this point. Don't quote me on that. But he also hasn't fought since getting knocked out by Francis Ngannou in March of 2021. He's also a full-time firefighter, guys. Crazy. There's no other historic champions in other sports with full-time jobs outside of their sport. So Stipe has been more committed. He's a big family man. So he hasn't really been, I don't know this, but my guess is he hasn't been training for John Jones for 2+ years. Whereas John Jones, we know, has been in training for the move up to heavyweight, had a fight. We know he's been training for this. So I'm excited for it. I think Jones, is just going to outclass him. Stipe's older, hasn't been training as hard. And I give it Jones, and I give it, sadly, I like Stipe a lot, but I think Jones gets it done rather convincingly.
Brandon, you would have never thought that whenever I met this young man a few years back, he had no desires to do anything with combat sports.
No.
We were watching wrestling, and he was like, that is absolutely brutal. That was wrestling. And now UFC. This man is just talking about UFC at a level that I can't even comprehend.
Troy, you know your stuff, man. I appreciate having a man like you on because you're extremely knowledgeable. That's for sure.
Oh, that hurts.
Why, thank you.
Well, you're a putz when it comes to this. You was calling it MMA or whatever the hell. This is a combat sport. I forgot it's in the UFC. Anyways, I screwed up your name, and this guy screwed up calling it MMA 290. So we're on the same page, and I do apologize about that, Troy.
That's all right.
Troy, thank you so much, my guy, for joining us. I'm looking forward to watching this. You have convinced me well enough, not Brandon because he's a jerk,
Whatever.
But you have convinced me well enough to try to watch this tonight. I encourage everyone else to come on out here to Union Draft House, 730 Sunland Park Drive, and join us as we are watching MMA, also known as UFC 290.
With Josh. No, just kidding, Troy.
With our friend Josh.
Sorry. I'm a putz too, Troy, just to let you know.
Happy fight night, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, care.
Troy.
He's great. I love that guy.
Oh, yeah, no, he's good.
I goofed. I'm sorry about that. My bad. I like when you look at me. I always look forward to the stupid Tipton looks.
Stupid Tipton looks.
When you get pissed off at me, which is very often nowadays. No, you always are nice to me when you get mad at me. You always went, what the hell? You're like, what are you talking about?
I don't get mad at you.
No, you never do. You love me too much to get mad at me.
We were asked this question: is Drew Powell better than Dak Prescott? Yes or no? Apparently, Drew Powell is 6'3" and 220 pounds. That's all I know about Drew Powell. So I will say no.
No. No, not yet.
One is the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. The other is a guy named Drew Powell.
Drew Powell. That sounds good to me.
Good for him. Greatest.
It's not Drew Brees. Not Drew Brees.
No. Not even Drew Henson.
Yeah. Henson. Bop. Okay, that's Hanson. But anyways, remember the Hansons? Bop. Okay, sorry. Bad joke.
I'm glad Troy was not here to witness the way that.
Yeah, that would have been terrible. You would have thought we were.
Okay, so going over what you heard from Troy right now, talking about everything UFC related. What are your thoughts? Was he able to persuade you in anything? Or are you guys kind of on the same page?
No, I agree with him. I think the outcomes of this evening's fights, I actually had him the same way. That's why I asked him about that. And I'm also extremely excited about Jones and Stipe Miocic coming up in November 11th from MSG. I'd also agree that I think Bones Jones is the best pound-for-pound MMA fighter we've ever seen, and I think he's going to win that fight, even though I have a sentimental favorite in Stipe. He's a really good guy. He's right. He was a volunteer firefighter in Cleveland. Now he's a full-time firefighter. He's one of the biggest menches in the UFC. I would love to see him win that fight. They're two heavyweights. Who the hell knows? But to me, that's going to be one of the best UFC fights we've ever seen potentially coming up here in a few months. I can't wait.
I can't wait for the argument to happen whenever people are like, John Jones is the greatest of all time, kind of the way that they do with like Babe Ruth and all that, where they're like, he fought against, firefighters and plumbers. John Jones is fighting against a literal firefighter.
Yeah.
So.
yeah. This guy's a really, really big, strong firefighter, though, man. I mean, he's huge. Yeah,
I'm sure the people that saw Babe Ruth playing back in the day thought the same thing.
Yeah, smoking a cigar and a few drinks, eating a sausage sandwich, whatever he was doing. That's hilarious.
All right, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm more than likely going to buy it because why the hell not? I want to try to start getting into the UFC. I need to, Dave. I got to start getting into this UFC stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll see. The MMA 290 happening tonight. There's no way I called it MMA 290.
You're a putz. And I called him Troy. I called him Josh accidentally, and I'm sorry. But anyways, you may have done that if they counted you on that. I'm
about to say, if Babcock said I did, then I more than likely did. Feel like a jerk because I don't mess up that often.
Yes, once in a while.
What I wanted was to just hear you say the names because the way that Troy was able to just rattle off the names.
I wasn't going to mention that one opponent, the kid from I can't remember what but I think it was he mentioned the kid's name and I was going to call him Whitaker against Duplessis, but he completely said it right and I would have said it wrong. And that's why I didn't even try and say the guy's name,
What do you think about that Whitaker main event?
Oh, that Whitaker main event's great. Notice I didn't say his opponent's name and I let him say it for me.
Yeah. No, he's one of he's one of the best at it, man. Like he's really good at doing all this stuff, so he's fantastic. I want to give him a big thanks. I want to give a thanks to our friends over here at Union Draft House, 730 Sunland Park Drive. Remember, they're going to have the fight tonight. It's also Saturday. They got the $2 build your own pizzas. Brandon, you can't ask for anything better than what they're giving us over here at Union Draft House. I also want to give a shout out to our friends at Three Missions Brewery, 10179 Socorro Road down in Socorro, Texas, my neck of the woods. They got the Blondie out. They've got the pomegranate beer out. They've got a whole selection of them. But I also want to give a little love to a new brewery here in El Paso, Engine 3 Brewing Company. As we were talking about firefighters, this was actually the thought of a firefighter. He made his own brewery now. He's going to retire after 25 years of service to the city of El Paso. He created his own brewery. It's over there off of Lee Trevino and Pebble Hills. I don't have the exact address because I'm a horrible individual, but the beer is fantastic. I tried 12 different beers the other day. Actually, July 5th. What a way to start off the whole new year part of getting into the whole July 4th thing. 12 of their beers. It was absolutely fantastic, Brandon. A great atmosphere. I put up a video on Instagram, put up a video on TikTok. Go check those out at Mr. Tippin 33. Go show a little bit of love to Engine 3 Brewing Company. What are your plans for today, Brandon? Just going to watch a little UFC?
That, and then also heading to the Chihuahuas game later on tonight with the fam, and enjoy myself.
Aren't they on about basically the same time?
Yeah, well, the main card didn't start till 8, so we're only going to go for a few hours, and then I'll catch like the co-main and main events, so yeah.
Actually, you know what? It's a Saturday, fireworks.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm watching UFC tonight now.
Well, don't let me persuade you away from that.
No. Brandon, you kind of did. All the hard work Troy just did trying to get me excited for the UFC. You mentioned the Chihuahuas in a Saturday baseball game. You might have just ruined all of it, Brandon.
Oops.
Oops, I did it again. Remember, no Fire and Ice next week or the week after. Brandon going to be doing a little cruising it up, getting out of town, going to work on his tan. He's going to be beautiful as always whenever he comes back, just a golden Adonis. All right, everybody, that's enough of me just meandering on. I wanted to get to a certain point in time, so I'm going to keep talking here until I get my next 10 seconds out of the way, because that's all I'm doing, Brandon, is just trying to end it on a perfectly good time note right here. Engine 3 Brewing Company, 3112 Forney Lane in El Paso, Texas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. You are an absolute lifesaver. Also, you could have just probably said the address yourself.
But it would be much better in your deeply resonant voice.
Oh, there we go. See, he knows how to butter my bread. Look at that.